to use 4 different colors today, and all of these are red heart, and you can find in my description. I'm also going to use some tapestry needles and 2 different hook sizes. I'm going to use a 5mm for the mouth and the base, and a 425 for the eyes, just because it makes them a little bit smaller. But if you don't mind them being big, then you can use a 5mm for everything. I'm going to start off by making a slip knot and making a chain length of 52. 1, 2. I just finished my chain length of 52, and if you're using a smaller hook size than I am, or even a DK weight, I put all the measurements in the description just in case. So I'm going to chain 1 for turning. So now we have 53 chains, and we're going to make half double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over, skip the first one, and go into the second one, grab the yarn and pull all together. So yarn over, go inside, and pull all together. And we're going to continue this until we're at the bottom. I'm almost done with my first row, so I'm going to yarn over and go into the last stitch and finish it off. Then I'm going to chain 1 and flip my work. And from this row on, we're going to work only in the back loops. The back loops is the one that's over here, not the one in the front. And we're going to continue this until we finish the row. I'm almost done with my second row, so I'm going to yarn over and go into the back loop of the last stitch, and then chain 1 and flip my work. After you flip your work, the key to maintaining a straight edge is going to the first immediate stitch. Sometimes you might skip that, and then that's why you end up with slanted sides. So I'm going to yarn over and go in the back loop of the first immediate stitch. We're going to continue this pattern of going to the back loops for every row. After I do a couple rows, I'm going to show you how to count them. I'm currently almost halfway. I'm missing 1 row for me to be exactly in the middle. So I'm going to flip my work until I see this bumpy row as my first row. Every bumpy row counts as 2 rows. So currently I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which means I have 10 rows. And we're going to continue this until we have 11 bumpy rows, which is 22 rows total. I just finished my 22 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And now we're going to fold it in half, and it's going to look like this. Now I'm going to cut it off and tie off the end. We're going to sew the sides together. Usually I measure it up against the hat about 3 times, and that's enough for both sides. You can slip stitch on the sides, but I'm just going to feed the yarn through the needle and make a couple knots just so it's secure. I'm going to take one side and I'm going to go through the top, and then I'm just going to tie it off. After I tie it off, I'm going to work in the front loop and the back loop, and I'm going to go into a zigzag. So I'm going to go to the back and then the front and back. And you're going to continue going inside and out. That way when you pull it and you flip it, it looks like this side is also part of the ribbing. After you're done, you're going to pull it, cut it off, and repeat the same thing on the other side. For the next side, you're just going to do the same thing you did. You're just going to make a couple knots in the beginning, and then go in the back and the front and back, and continue making the zigzag motion that we were doing before. This is what I meant earlier, that the way I sewed it sort of looks like it's part of the ribbing, and you can't even tell that this part is one of the seams. Same for the other side. I thought that I was recording when I was doing the loose end, so I just explained what I did. I took a loop over here and I split the yarn into 2, so I had 2 strands, and then I tied it off, and I did that to both sides. And then for the bottom, I took the strand from this side and I put it on a loop over here, and I put the strand of this side and I put it in the opposite side, and then I tied it off. And now that our ends are tied off, we can now flip it inside out and work on our body parts for this. To make the mouth, I'm going to make a slip knot, and I'm going to make a chain length of 20. After you chain 20, you're going to chain 1 for turning, and you're going to make 8 rows of half double crochets. I'm almost done with my first row, and I want to weave in as I go, so I'm just going to feed the tail through the chain, and then I'm just going to continue making half double crochets as normal. I'll be back once I finish my 8 rows. I just finished off my 8 rows and now I'm going to get rid of the loose ends, and this is exactly what I did for the base. I just went under the loop, split my yarn, went underneath, and just tied it off a couple times, and then I just cut it off. And now it's good to cut off. We're going to make our teeth now, and this is where you decide whether you want 1 or 2 rows. Personally, I'm going to make 1 row for this one, but if you want to do 2 rows, you can also do that. You're going to chain 19 plus 1 for turning. After you chain 19 plus 1 for turning, you're going to skip the first stitch and go into the second one and make single crochets. I want to weave in as I go, so I'm just going to take my tail and loop it through a chain, and then just continue making single crochets as normal. Now I'm going to chain 1 and flip my work, and we're going to make 2 double crochets, but we're going to skip 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to make 2 double crochets. Yarn over, go inside, pull once and then pull twice, chain 1 and make 2 more double crochets in the same stitch. After you finish our first teeth, we're going to skip 3 again, 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to slip stitch, and then we're going to yarn over and skip 3, 1, 2, and 3, and make 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. And now we have our second teeth, and we're going to skip 3 again, 1, 2, and 3, slip stitch, and continue this until you have 4 teeth. After you finish, it should align perfectly with the red. For the loose ends, you just go under a loop, grab the yarn, and just tie it off. We are now going to make our eyes, and this is the part where I switch to a smaller hook size just so the eyes come out a little bit smaller. I'm going to make a magic ring, so I'm going to point my fingers like an L and hold the yarn underneath, and I'm going to make an X on the bottom, and then when you flip your fingers, you're going to have 2 lines. You're going to go underneath, grab this yarn and twist, and then grab your working yarn and chain 1. Now you can let go and make the hole smaller, and I'm going to make 8 half double crochets. After you finish making your 8 half double crochets, you just pull it and make a slip stitch on the first stitch and cut it off. For the loose ends, you just pull it and tie it, then go underneath and grab a loop, grab the yarn, and just tie it off. Now we're going to sew the teeth to the mouth, and we're going to go into zigzags. So I'm going to go inside and then go again in the other side, and make sure you're going inside the stitch so it's not noticeable in the top. After you finish the top, we're going to go to the teeth. So I'm just going to go down, and now we're going to go inside this hole and pull it down so we have a point. So I'm just going to go over here and go inside the loop and go underneath the stitch over here, and now we have this little line that's going to make our teeth be a little bit more pointy. Then you're going to go in between over here and pull it. We're going to go inside, we're going to go inside this loop, we're going to put our needle a row above, go inside the loop, and go above the stitch and just pull. And now you're going to go inside this little hole over here, go in the stitch above, loop, and go over until you see a little line. Then when you're done, you just tie it off. We are now going to sew the mouth to the base, so make sure it's exactly in the middle, and then we're going to go about the second stitch, not the first one because then it's kind of noticeable. So you go to the second stitch and you just go up, and we're going to keep doing that zigzag that we were doing and not go over. If you do it too close, it'll be noticeable over here. For the top, you're just going to go in and you kind of guide yourself of where you're going and try to poke it through the red side, and that way you don't have to be looking inside for it. You can just scoop it through here, and again, make sure you're not going through the white part. Now you flip it inside out and you tie it off. We're now going to attach the eyes. Usually I do about a finger, which is about 1/2 inch, but also a 3-stitch space. I like to use a chip clip to hold it in place, and then I'm just going to go in every single stitch. After you finish, you're just going to tie it off and then repeat the same thing for the other side. Now our hat is done and ready to wear. This is the final result and also one of my best sellers. I love making these and I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next week.